Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Brainbean here again, and as you can tell from the title of this video, we're taking a look at the new tournament edition of the Razer Huntsman. Now, more than just a regular 10 keyless rehash of an existing keyboard, this thing has a ton of new features on it. I'm really excited to show them to you. They've answered a bunch of the issues I've had with Razer keyboards over the years, and we've got a new switch type too. And of course, you know I love to give back to you guys, so I am going to be giving one of these away to one of my subscribers, but we'll deal with all the details on that at the end of the video. For now, let's go check this thing out. So starting as always with construction and design, as you guys can see, there's really not a whole lot to tell you here other than just the obvious 10 keyless form factor. There is one minor variation. Because this is the tournament edition, it does have a removable USB-C cable, which I think is great. And the placement of this in particular is something that Razer made in collaboration with current esports pros, and that's having it up in that top left corner. And the idea here is that when you're playing in a tournament, you've got just a classic monitor with the stand on the desk, and sometimes that middle cable can kind of have to bend around the monitor or gets in the way when you're doing some of those like angling the keyboard to play and some of those weird advanced configurations that people play with. So having it up in the top left corner of the board makes it much easier to position it however you want to, especially if you're playing in esports. Now, the actual construction of the board is very similar to the Razer Huntsman. You got that same aluminum matte finish top plate that's nice and fingerprint resistant, and overall just that clean minimalistic design that we're used to seeing from the original Razer Huntsman. But I'm gonna stop right there and start jumping into some of the new and exciting stuff about this keyboard because there really is a lot to cover. The first big one being that this is the first Razer keyboard to feature a standard bottom row. So this means that in the past, you really couldn't find many custom keycap sets that would fit your Razer keyboards. But with this keyboard, all that is gonna be done away with. You can go out and pick out a whole bunch of different keycap sets that use just that standard layout, and it will fit on this keyboard. And I think that's really great with the amount of really cool looking custom keycap sets that are becoming widely available on the market right now. This is really great to facilitate that. Another huge change that I've been asking for years is the inclusion of double shot PBT keycaps stock on the keyboard. Now, I think the main reason that this took so long to get is that Razer actually went out and created their own tooling to create their own unique PBT keycaps for this keyboard. And one of the main struggles that they went through was trying to get a nice, slim, sharp font that would match the original font of their keyboards right now. So when you actually look at the font on these new PBT keycaps, it's just ever so slightly larger, and you're only going to notice that if you put them side by side. At first, I didn't even notice it. The only other difference with these PBT keycaps I noticed is that the shine through on them is just a little bit less bright and vibrant than the original ABS keycaps, obviously because they're using that heavier PBT plastic. But overall, the font looks really great. And that brings me to another exciting point. The secondary characters on these PBT keycaps are illuminated. So not only is this the first Razer keyboard to use PBT keycap stock, but the secondary characters are also illuminated as well, which you guys know has been something I've been asking for over 3 years. Thank you, Razer. You listened. Another thing I really like about the PBT keycaps is that they have this great matte finish to them, as opposed to Razer's older ABS keycaps really picked up oils from your fingerprints and they got kind of shiny after a while. These really don't have that issue. And in terms of actually typing on them, they do have that nice weighty PBT feel, and they give you that good PBT thok or clack sound when you bottom it out. And I'm actually going to do a quick sound test for you guys back to back of just some ABS keycaps I pulled off my regular Razer Huntsman and a couple of these PBT keycaps, just so you can hear the sound difference between the ABS and the PBT. Now, I'm sure you guys are wondering, just like I was, now that you see these PBT keycaps on Razer keyboards, can we expect these to roll out on other Razer keyboards in the future? I reached out to Razer and I asked them this question, and as of this time, they couldn't really give me a concrete answer, but I think If you look at the release of the Black Widow V2 when they first introduced this new clean, simple font, it didn't take very long for that same font and all those keycaps to roll out on all their other keyboards as well. And I think that's what we're going to probably run into with these PBT keycaps. So I think if you guys can hold out for a while, we'll probably start seeing these being stock on other Razer keyboards in the future. But again, that's just my opinion. In terms of lighting, I feel like at this point I don't really need to go into detail of all the different lighting profiles and presets that you get with Razer Synapse. This keyboard does have up to 5 profiles that you can save directly onto the keyboard, which is pretty cool, especially considering that this is a tournament edition keyboard. So that means that you could save all of your macros and your custom lighting and all these different things directly onto the keyboard. And then when you go take it to a PC at the actual tournament, you're gonna have everything saved onto the keyboard there for you so that you don't have to take time to set up things in the actual tournament environment. And in terms of lighting performance, you're really going to get the same aesthetic look as you do with the Razer Huntsman. Like I mentioned, the only real difference here is just that ever so slight haze to the keycaps. And just to show you guys what I mean, here's a quick shot of just a couple of keycaps. That top row, the QWE, those are the PBT keycaps, and the AS and D keys underneath are the ABS. Just so you can see, there's a little bit more vibrance to the ABS keycaps, I think, but overall you really aren't going to notice much of a difference. And if all that wasn't exciting enough, Razer introduced a new switch with this keyboard. It is their linear version of their Opto-mechanical switch, which was the Razer Purple switch they released with the Razer Huntsman keyboards. Now we have a linear variant. This is actually Razer's fastest switch yet, coming in with just a 1mm actuation point. It's got a 3.5mm total travel distance, so you're gonna get a nice comfortable travel, but for me personally, I feel like the 1mm is a little bit fast. I mean, it's even faster than Cherry MX Speeds and faster than their Razer Yellow switch too. Now in terms of competitive gaming, if you're playing shooters and things like that, having a super fast actuation in my eyes really doesn't make that much of a difference. It's not going to bother you as much, but when you're playing games like MMOs, and especially with doing a lot of typing, it will take you quite a bit of getting used to not accidentally press keys, because at 1mm, you're really going to have an issue if you accidentally barely tap your keys. You're going to get a lot of misclicks for a while. Continuing on with the specs, there is a 0mm reset point and a 0 millisecond debounce delay. Now this is important because classic mechanical switches have a 10 to 25 second debounce delay, which is essentially just the computer compensating for the chatter in the switches. You don't have that issue because, like the opto-mechanical switches in the Razer Huntsman, these linear ones also use light to actuate the key presses, which removes that being an issue. Now also, because these are optical switches as well, they have a much better longevity at 100 million keystrokes. So these are definitely going to last you for a while. And overall, in terms of performance for me, these are very similar to the opto-mechanical clicky switches that we saw with the Huntsman. Obviously, the only real difference being that they're linear. And in that respect, they are buttery smooth. I mean, these things feel like typing on clouds. It's actually a really nice linear experience. And the way the opto-mechanical switches are designed with those individual stabilizers built into every key makes it so that there's no key wobble. And by far, these opto versions of Razer switches are the best switches that they've ever made, and are actually switches that I think can compete with other higher level switches on the market. And of course, I wouldn't leave you guys without a sound test, especially considering we've got those nice PBT keycaps as well. So here is a quick sound test of the new red Razer Opto-mechanical linear switch with their new PBT keycaps. Another thing worth mentioning is that at this time, this keyboard is not going to be offered with the clicky variant of the opto-mechanical switch, although I think around the same time we might start seeing the linear switches on something like the Huntsman Elite. I have a feeling we'll probably see the clicky switches come to the 10 keyless version too. And again, like the keycaps, I'm sure you're probably wondering, are we going to see these switches on something like the Razer Huntsman Elite? Again, this is something I asked Razer, and at this time they couldn't really confirm one way or the other, but I'd be pretty surprised if they didn't make an option to have these on the Huntsman Elite as well, because I have a feeling that the linear versions of these switches are going to be pretty popular. So again, only time will tell here, but I think the odds of us seeing it on a full-size keyboard are pretty good. In terms of extras on the keyboard, this is going to be pretty much the same experience we saw with the Razer Huntsman. You don't get an included wrist rest, which is kind of a bummer, and you don't get dedicated media keys. Again, these are reserved for the Razer Huntsman Elite. But you do get media control by way of the function key. It has 10 key rollover with 1000 hertz polling rate, and specifically on the 10 keyless version, it does not have actual LED indicators on it. Instead, the caps lock and scroll lock keys will change white respectively when those modes are activated. Overall, guys, this keyboard comes in at $130, and while it may not be a perfect keyboard, because personally I would have liked to have seen one of their nicer pillowy wrist rests included, maybe some dedicated media keys or something like that, but considering this is a tournament edition, that's not really par for the course for them on there. And really, to be honest with you guys, this has to be my favorite Razer keyboard release to date, simply for the fact that they answered all of the gripes that I've had over the years with Razer keyboards in a single keyboard release, which really is pretty impressive considering the amount of tooling and redesign required to make all of these changes on a single release. I mean, we're talking the standard bottom row, PBT double shot keycaps, and the new linear red opto-mechanical switch that feels absolutely buttery smooth and fantastic. I highly recommend you guys check them out. All of these things just wrapped up into a really nice package for $130. In my eyes, is really cool, and hopefully we will see these new linear switches and PBT keycaps rolled out on other Razer keyboards soon, because I think this is going to help fill in the void in some areas where maybe their keyboards might be lacking and really round them out as an ultra premium gaming product. But anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Like I said, I am going to be giving one of these away to one of my subscribers. As always, all you have to do to be eligible to win that is 1, of course, make sure you're subscribed to this channel, and 2, let me know down in the comments below which one of these new features on this keyboard is your favorite. I'll be announcing the winner on my Twitter at Brainbean Gaming, so you may want to give me a follow over there if you don't want to constantly have to go and check it out. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.